When we're in the studio, we're not performers, we're musicians.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to emulate a human experience that is natural to an encounter with music, let's say, but we're doing it in an artificial way.
The only way I think you could have a recording match, and it still doesn't even do it fully, match a live performance is if it is a live recording of a performance.
Performing live is, it's energetic, it's very present moment. If you mess up, you don't necessarily have to go back and rewatch it or fix it. You don't have someone going, hey, let's redo that part. It didn't quite sound right.
And when you're on doing the live, aspect of the music, you're a performer. You're there for them, right? When you're in the studio, you're there trying to reproduce the best that you can bring.
What I tend to want to chronicle is what I consider reality. That when all the electricity goes off, this is what it returns to.
I've wanted to start an all-girl punk band in Salem for a very long time, and at various points trying to pull people in, and actually I started learning drums because I was so insistent I needed to start this girl punk band, but I couldn't find girl drummers. So I started learning drums from Doug Hoffman, and actually it was my first drum lesson. He said, hey, we're starting this other project, City of Pieces. So I just started doing that, and I gave up drums, which was cool because then I was telling my friend Jamie that I wanted to start an all-girl punk band, and she's like, I'll be your drummer. So she started
When I saw the agony for a while, for at least a couple of years with Karen, as she wanted to do this all-girl band, and she had spoken with many people, and it just wasn't panning out, and I was getting frustrated. I was actually asking people if they were a drummer to help her, and I got to the point where I was like, screw it, I'll do it.
It became a joke that we should start a band, so we talked about that for a year, jokingly, that we should start a band, and then we did. And then Jamie and Karen had already been committed to one another in having a band. So I hadn't really had the intention of being in a band. I was just listening to what I wanted to do, which was start playing a musical instrument.
And Jessica on her own separately started learning bass around the same time. And so it just cohesively happened. The three of us are friends and hang out a lot anyway, so.
A neighbor came by and this drama started to ensue about the neighbor, and a comment was made about he's not going to have any hot sheets tonight. And Karen was like, that's it. And the wildfire began.
We were especially inspired because we started talking about being a band, but we weren't a band. But we were especially inspired by Make Music Day of 2016. And when that came up, suddenly there was this opportunity where we could just play one song. We didn't have to do more than that. It was too daunting to think of a whole set to do. And so I think it was the fact that we just had to play one song that made it like, hey, let's learn a song and do it. Let's start this thing.
Playing with Jamie and Karen has been really fun because Jamie is a beginner. Karen's new at being lead vocals and kind of is like our band leader. And so there's a lot of freedom to just, it's pretty low pressure, low key. We're all kind of on the same playing field, which has made it really nice learning environment, because under pressure, I don't know that I would have a chance to explore and fuck up as much, mess up as much.
The capturing of hot sheets this young in our age and in our creation, to me it's a great mile marker, and it's the first mile marker. So let's say in 10 years, we're gonna get better, we're gonna get tighter, we're gonna have better songs, and we're gonna have better recordings. So to me, it's like, let it be what it's going to be right now in this whole birthing process of Hot Sheets and our first album, EP.
Well, I just took that opportunity to fuck around for the next
I just took that opportunity to just fuck it off, because I fucked it off. That was disappointing. That was disappointing.
Good energy. Yeah.
Good energy.
Good energy.
Did not play it right.
I think my earliest experiences of hearing my parents singing, singing in the car going somewhere, we'd all sing. My mother played the piano. I had this experience that was really extraordinary, that I loved going out there, and I heard right from the beginning music. I imagined music. It was like choirs. It was like choirs of angels. And I was just so moved by it. My mother would come out and check out the trailer to see if there was a radio or if there's something else going on, because she thought it was some kind of abnormal behavior. I don't listen to music except when I imagine it, or if somebody specifically wants me to hear something. I just sit and I do nothing else. I don't put up music on behind me, because I won't be able to concentrate, because I'm hearing it. So I'll stop and hear the music, and then I go back and I'm hearing things. I had been studying about Fernando Sor, who lived in the early 1800s, and he witnessed this transition of amateurism and virtuosity, and kind of, in some ways, losing the muse in music, and it becoming entertainment. And I just thought that was, his teacher was a priest. He grew up in a monastery, and they were giving the old scoop on what music was. And when he was asked to sing a certain piece of music but in another key, he went over to a key on the keyboard. It was right next to him. He was going to get a pitch, and the teacher said, that will be anti-music. That won't be. I want music from your soul. I want music that comes out of you, not from some machine.
How do you feel when you're in the studio? How does that change your experience as a performer?
Okay.
Meh.
The whole thing, man?
Meh.
Okay, you want to do it again?
Let's just fucking play it. Okay, ready? Just
Hold
do
on.
it.
So when he says rolling, then I want to wait for more. That's why I'm waiting.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're gonna get it this time.
Okay, tempo. Okay, hold on. Rolling.
Performing live, when you're just in it and there's people there and you're just playing and that's all that's happening, there's something profound about being deep in that moment that I love so much. It's just, the moment comes and the moment leaves, and just being deep in it is how I can explain it best. And there's something about the second you look up and there's someone's iPhone, and then it is being captured, and not that I'm playing a song and processing this whole thing, but this idea of then it is captured and then it will exist into perpetuity, that now it will stay forever and will, maybe go on to Facebook or wherever. All of a sudden, that changes. Like, being in that moment changes because it no longer becomes fully just that moment. It's now that moment and a future moment.
We're conditioned from a young age to smile for the camera. It completely distracts from the authenticity of a moment when we have to stop and smile or pose or put on something in order to be captured the way we've all been taught to be captured.
We've done things in the studio that were new than how we have always done them. And because that newness, now they're playing the songs differently. And in our very last gig, that happened, and I was not cued in that I'm playing it differently now because this is how I did it in the studio when you weren't there. So we're playing live, and I'm doing my thing, and then Karen goes into this riff that I'm like, what the that I'm used to hearing one way, and it's a cue for me for one of my breakdowns, and I missed it. And I just looked at her, and she goes, this is how I'm doing it now. And I was just like, ah!
It takes me out of the present moment. It can distract from the joy when I'm there just playing and I'm tuned into my bandmates, and yeah, I look up and I realize there's eyes on me, there's eyes on us. There's someone with a camera over here and over there. It definitely it distracts from what I'm doing. It pulls my attention away from my band, and I tend to make more mistakes when I'm paying closer attention to what's happening around me as opposed to what I'm doing with Jamie and Karen there together.
It's alive and in the moment, at the moment that I experience it. And then it's interesting, it's sort of like catching a butterfly in a jar or something, you know, and then I open it up and let it out. And so the listener has the potential, if they want to give themselves to the event of receiving the music, they go there with me to that place that is a parody of what I experienced, and then they experience it too.
Knowing you're being recorded, knowing someone's listening for mistakes as you're playing. I mean, you already have those fears anyway when you're performing live. Like, there's already that fear that you're performing live and everyone might be silently judging you, or, you know, really picking apart whether or not you have any right to be on stage making music. And then you go into the studio, and there's not judgment there, but the nature of it is to be judgmental, to record something, to listen to it, and to judge whether or not it's good enough.
So being in the recording studio, it's a different feeling because you can be doing whatever you're doing and you can focus just on the sound that you are creating. But there is definitely this added pressure. It's very different from if I was just playing in my living room and Charles was just listening versus Charles setting up all the mics and capturing that moment.
We're not quite done, but we're able to hear some of it coming together.
One of the songs, called Fuck It, we recorded in one take. And after we did it, we were like, yep, that's it. And so that one I feel confident about. The other ones, just in, you know, going back and listening, and as we do some more overlays and vocals and stuff, I think it's there, but we'll find out.
Have you ever heard yourself so well? I've never heard myself so well.
I do think that overdubbing and multi-layering in excess changes the feel and changes the sound and the performance, the live performance of the artist. If we can play Fuck It and the crowd is going crazy, mission accomplished across the board. But you don't have that in the studio. You just gotta play it like you know it and have fun with it. You know, it's two completely different aspects of performing the music.
It is, I think that recording is I mean, it's exactly that, recording. It is distilling something down to its structural elements, filling it in as something to hold on to for posterity, you know, maybe it'll make some sort of historical mark.
Yeah. How do you guys feel?
I think
It's great. How do you feel?
I would say great.
I feel like Jamie.
Now we know who the perfectionist is.
I feel like this is punk rock, man. This is not classical.
We would listen in the studio to the music, and I remember they wanted me out of the room, and the engineer and the producer were there, and they got it just right, and they brought me in to listen to the mix, and it sounded incredible. It was on like 3-feet speakers. I mean, it was like $10,000 speakers. And I said, well, what would this sound like in a car, you know, on a small speaker? Well, we put it on a small speaker, and you couldn't even hear the bass. You know, and so we had to like then accommodate room speakers, car speakers, earbuds, to be able to go, can we hear all of the information, even though we had to compromise the gloriousness of these huge speakers that nobody else owns. Who has $10,000 for speakers? You know?
So we felt like we could take this simplicity that we have and combine it with the energy and excitement that we have, and that we could capture that by going into the recording studio. And also, I very much strongly believe that there is absolutely this great time to get into the studio that is before you think you're ready. And so this is something I've experienced with lots of bands I've been in the past, where you first start out and you're writing songs and they're not quite together, and then they start becoming more cohesive, and especially playing live, you get to that point, but they're not quite perfect yet, but you're still really excited about the songs. And right then, that is when you go into the recording studio, because you capture this moment of, and I think a lot of it is that energy, that excitement, and then you go on from there, and then perhaps perfection, whatever that is, comes after that, and then it actually starts going down. The energy starts waning after that.
You cannot fake it in the studio. Once that's recorded, you can't embellish shit. It's still shit.
Polish a turd.
You can't polish, right, exactly. Why would you polish a turd? Why waste your time?
When we play shows, we've only had, like 5, 6, 7 songs to play. We play for 20, 25 minutes. And people are asking where they can get our music, where they can find us, and that we haven't had that to offer. So it has been a catalyst for getting into the studio and having something to offer. And we have some really great, fun songs that we're excited about, and we're excited that other people are excited about. So getting into the studio was, I mean, why not? Why not?
The beauty of going into a recording studio is you are able to do something that's totally different than what you can do live. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like you are a musician, you're an artist, and here's one palette, and here's one way of conveying who you are, and that is this live performance. That's where the energy comes out, and that's where even if you make a mistake, you rock that much harder, and that like makes up for the mistake. That's my attitude anyway. That's kind of what I do. And so there's that, and then I'm gonna go into the studio with my friends. We're gonna make this album, and we can add in different stuff. We can do it a little bit differently. We could even change a part of the song if we wanted, because that's now we have this palette, and we're gonna make this other piece of art.
You have you have a wild night of hot, passionate sex, and then you have this disheveled, beautiful bed afterward that just smells like sex and looks like sex, and it's amazing. And then you make that bed, and that's what recording is. Like, the scent is still there from the night before, but the bed has been made.
That is actually a great analogy. I love that. That's hilarious.
Yeah. That's punk rock, the punk rock live, punk rock studio. It's still punk rock. It's just, you know, it's like punk rock the day after.
You're rolling.
You can just keep going, and then because I mean, we can cut off the first one.
That's the tempo you want. Keep on. Okay, and you're rolling.
I look forward to the journey. I completely look forward to the journey of where we are, how it is, as raw as it is, to what we develop into over time. So bring it on. It's new, it's fun, and that's key. That is the biggest key to this whole experience. If it's not fun, it's not worth it. So fuck it. You know? And that's it. So right now it's fun and we're doing it, and if we keep getting better, it's just gonna keep being more fun. And I look forward to the journey. I'm glad that we're on it. It's a very healing thing for us to be able to provide that safe space where you can play like shit today, and you're not gonna be judged for it. You're just here to play, and we're here to play with you. The operative word being play. Bringing it back to the fun. Like, you be you carry your shit today, right here, right now, for the next hour and a half during practice. You're gonna play it away. We are having fun, and it's a reminder to each other. We're having fun. Don't forget that, because it's too easy to get caught in the everyday and in the perfectionism.
We're able to be in the studio, having a good time, and I trust that that is going to shine through no matter what.
I don't think Hot Sheets could be with any other people. It could, but it wouldn't be the same. If one of us, left the band for whatever reason, it would never be the same. It would never be Hot Sheets as it is today. So I love who Hot Sheets is becoming, and who we are as individuals and what we bring to this little creation.
I honestly don't know that I would be having such a good time if it weren't for Jamie and Karen. I mean, I think that we have such a good time together that despite the fact that I'm talking about what I was running into personally with myself, they alleviate a lot of that for me.
Going places, touching things. That's why I have all these old instruments. I feel like I'm touching another time. I mean, it's like I'm touching an instrument, and I go, oh my gosh, this instrument doesn't know it's this year. It still thinks it's 1820. All the technology of 1820 is there. The manifestation, all the aesthetic, all of the volume, the intimacy of the instrument, it's all there. The instruments have told me somewhat what it's like to have lived at another time.
Yeah, recorded music is, each and every piece is a piece of history. And even if that's your garage band you had in the mid-90s that only put something on cassette tape, there's your piece of history.
When the electricity's gone, if culture disappears, hopefully there's still trees and birds and whatever, And so I'm trying to kind of grapple with what are eternal truths? What are things that are always here? And that's what I think will always be here, is our need for each other. you know, and our need to have real experiences, participate in life rather than watch it. That's kind of my big thing. I'm kind of world beat, you know, because I did Celtic albums, you know, and but even that caught people by surprise. It won Best Celtic Album of the Year, my Air Isle the Saints album, because I actually went on location, and I like standing where St. Patrick stood, and I'm going, oh my God, everything is exactly as it was May 1st, 433 AD, when Patrick stood in this very spot. And so I took them there. I took them there because I was there. I was not telling about something I didn't know about.
I listen to and play a lot of music on my radio show, where I go out and I get music. Sometimes it's at a live show, so I've just seen the band and I buy it. But sometimes I'll go to a city and I find their punk rock DIY small record store, and then I'll have them recommend local bands to me, and I'll buy those records and then I'll play them on my show. And so those bands I have never seen live. Many of them I will never see live because they don't exist anymore. And so I have this experience of these bands that is wholly based on the recording, and they're magnificent.
I have kind of this voice of wanting to share a perspective, a love of life, a love of the mystery of life, of wanting to connect myself, have a relationship with some beyond, the Creator. These are all real things, they're not religion or, you know, I mean, when Adam walked in the Garden of Eden, there was no religion, you know, it was just relationship, you know. That's what I want. I want to somehow find that.
I do feel that recordings definitely can call up, you know, a more emotional, visceral experience for people that can remind them of what it was to hear us live, or if a friend says, I went and saw this show. If we together can get people to just relax and just stop trying to be whatever they think they need to be, if we can be the example of, hey, if they can do it, we can do it, that would be really cool. That would be cool if everyone was just doing things more, as opposed to not doing things because they're afraid that they can or they shouldn't, or when they do it, expecting perfection. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Music is always hearkening back to what preceded it. Thinking about some band from the future, looking back, maybe finding this random hot sheet song and being influenced by it or covering it or whatever, that would be a huge honor. And even if it's just a couple college kids playing it in their basement and that's it, and it never goes outside, just knowing that they dug it and there's something that spoke to them is really cool.
If what I have done influences somebody to do something, you know, that feeds their soul, or, you know, taps into a reservoir that has been untapped until that point, what greater gift?
What did Fernando Sor tell you? You know, my mentor, you know, from the past. And I remember he said, I love music. I feel it. He didn't say I love the guitar, I feel it. I love music, I feel it. Just play something that you feel. Just a neighbor flying by.
Playing live just sort of like, fuck it, we're just doing it. If we mess up, if things go to shit, doesn't matter. And there's an audience there. Can I be saying bad words?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
It's very punk rock.
You can put that in the outtakes.